Swami Maharaj Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Jai Vishnupad Paramahamsa Parivrajakacharya Astotara Sata Shri Srimad Srila Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Goswami Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Anantakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam Ki Jai. Nitai Gaura Premanandi Hari. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. Om Namo Bhagavate Vasudevaya. We're continuing the third canto of Srimad Bhagavatam, chapter 28, Kapila's instructions on devotional service, text 18. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram dhyayet devam samagranam yavanacyavyate mana. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram dhyayet devam samagrangam yavanacyavyate mana. Kirtanya tirtha yashasam punya shloka yashaskaram dhyayet devam samagrangam Yavanna Chavyate Mana. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam. Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. Dhyaya Devam Samagangam. Yavanna Chavyate Mana. Kirtanya Tirtha Yashasam. Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. Dhyaya Devam Samagangam. Yavanna Chavyate Mana. Kirtanya, worth singing. Tirtha Yashasam, the glories of the Lord. Punya Shloka, of the devotees. Yashakaram, enhancing the glory. Dhyayet, one should meditate. Devam, upon the Lord. Samagra Angam, all the limbs. Yavat, as much as. Na, not. Chavyate, deviates. Manaha, the mind. Translation in purport by Srila Prabhupada. Srila Prabhupada ki jai. Translation. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. Purport. One has to fix his mind on the Supreme Personality of Godhead constantly. When one is accustomed to thinking of one of the innumerable forms of the Lord, Krishna, Vishnu, Rama, Narayan, etc., he has reached the perfection of yoga. This is confirmed in the Brahma Samhita. A person who has developed pure love for the Lord and whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of transcendental loving exchange always sees within his heart the Supreme Personality of Godhead. The devotees especially see the Lord in the beautiful blackish form of Shamasundar. This is the perfection of yoga. This yoga system should be continued until the mind does not vacillate for a moment. Om Tad Vishnu Paramam Padam Sada Pashanti Suraya. The form of Vishnu is the highest individuality and is always visible to sages and saintly persons. The same purpose is served when a devotee worships the form of the Lord in the temple. There is no difference between devotional service in the temple and meditation on the form of the Lord, since the form of the Lord is the same, whether he appears within the mind or in some concrete element. There are 8 kinds of forms recommended for the devotees to see. The forms may be made out of sand, clay, wood, or stone. They may be contemplated within the mind, or made of jewels, metal, or painted colour. But all the forms are of the same value. It is not that one who meditates on the form within the mind sees differently from one who worships the form in the temple. The Supreme Personality of Godhead is absolute, and there is therefore no difference between the two. The impersonalists who desire to disregard the eternal form of the Lord imagine some round figure. They especially prefer the Omkara, which also has form. In Bhagavad Gita it is stated that Omkara is the letter form of the Lord. Similarly, there are statue forms and painted forms of the Lord. Another significant word in this verse is Punya Shloka Yashaskaram. The devotee is called Punya Shloka. As one becomes purified by chanting the holy name of the Lord, so one can become purified simply by chanting the name of a holy devotee. The pure devotee of the Lord and the Lord himself are non-different. It is sometimes feasible to chant the name of a holy devotee. This is a very sanctified process. Lord Chaitanya was once chanting the holy names of the gopis. When his students criticized him, "Why are you chanting the names of the gopis? Why not Krishna?" Lord Chaitanya was irritated by the criticism, and so there was some misunderstanding between him and his students. He wanted to chastise them for desiring to instruct him on the transcendental process of chanting. The beauty of the Lord is that the devotees who are connected with his activities are also glorified. Arjuna, Prahlad, Janak Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, and many other devotees who were not even in the renounced order of life, but were householders. Some of them, such as Prahlad Maharaj and Bali Maharaj, were born of demoniac families. Prahlad Maharaj's father was a demon, and Bali Maharaj was the grandson of Prahlad Maharaj. But still they have become famous because of their association with the Lord. Anyone who is eternally associated with the Lord is glorified with the Lord. The conclusion is that a perfect yogi should always be accustomed to seeing the form of the Lord, and unless the mind is fixed in that way, he should continue practicing yoga. Om Jnana Timirandasya Jnananjana Shalakaya Chakshurun Militam Yena Tasmai Shri Guruve Namaha. Jai Shri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Shri Advaita Gadadhar Shivasari Gaura Bhakta-vrinda. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. What a wonderful verse. The glory of the Lord is always worth singing, for his glories enhance the glories of his devotees. One should therefore meditate upon the Supreme Personality of Godhead and upon his devotees. One should meditate on the eternal form of the Lord until the mind becomes fixed. So this is one of Lord Kapila Dev's instructions, after he has just given a very beautiful description of the form of the Lord, on which our meditation should be focused. And Srila Prabhupada states here that any of the forms of the Lord in which we are accustomed to thinking of, when we can constantly remember that form of the Lord, then we've reached the perfection of yoga. And he quotes this beautiful verse from the Brahma Samhita: Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena Santa Sadaiva Hridayeshu Vilokayanti Yam Shyama Sundaram Achincha Guna Swarupam Govindamadi Purusham Tamaham Bhajami. That Premanjana Churita, we need our eyes to be smeared with this ointment of love. And Srila Prabhupada says it very beautifully here, whose eyes are smeared with the ointment of transcendental loving exchange. So that is our eyes being smeared with this salve of love, means that our eyes are smeared with transcendental loving exchanges with the Lord. That is love. Yes, it's an exchange. So there's always two. As Srila Prabhupada always, very strongly reminds us again and again that impersonal realization is not the topmost, because there's always two. In order to have exchange, in order to feel love, there must be two: the individual spirit soul and the Supreme Lord. And in these exchanges of love, then our relationship with the Lord is realized, whether it be in any of the different rasas, friendship, parental, all of the different rasas that we can have with Krishna. But Premanjana Churita Bhakti Vilochanena. So when our eyes are smeared with that ointment of pure love, then we can see, dwelling within the heart, this beautiful form, threefold bending form of Shyamasundar. Beautiful, blackish, threefold bending form. And Srila Prabhupada makes such beautiful points here that form of the Lord that we see within the heart by devotional service, by our purified senses, we can perceive the Lord within. That form that we perceive within is not different from the Lord that we worship in the temple. That there are different forms of the Lord, concrete forms, forms within the mind, sand, clay, metal, wood, but they are all the same. And it's just, when I read that, I was just thinking of how we have pastimes of devotees who see the Lord within the heart, and then they see the Lord also externally, like in front of them, and they see the exact same thing. So for example, Dhruva Maharaj, on his meditation on the Supreme Lord, Narada Muni instructed him in a very similar process as what Kapila Dev has given to his mother Devahuti, how to concentrate the senses on the form of the Lord and attain that supreme meditation. So Dhruva Maharaj, he was meditating on the form of the Lord which Narada Muni had described to him within his heart. And his meditation was so strong and so fixed. As we read here today, the mind should not be deviated at all. Dhruva Maharaj is a prime example of that. His mind was not deviated at all. And he was fixed in his meditation. And then, what happened when the Supreme Lord Narayan came to see him after all the demigods complained that they were in anxiety because of Dhruva Maharaj's intense austerities? Dhruva Maharaj, he all of a sudden couldn't see the Lord within his heart anymore. He lost that vision of the Lord within his heart. He opened his eyes, and there was the Supreme Lord Narayan standing in front of him, looking exactly the same as he had within his meditation. And this is the situation. The form of the Lord that we see within the heart, that we meditate on within the heart, is no different than the form of the Lord in which we can see in the temple, we can perceive in these different ways. Another example is Madhavendra Puri. Now when Madhavendra Puri, he went to Vrindavan, and he was travelling, and he stopped there in Vrindavan in the forest, and he was chanting, and a beautiful young boy came and offered him some milk in a pot. Yes, we remember this? That Madhavendra Puri, he was fasting, he wasn't eating, and then he was just chanting, and this beautiful young boy came and gave him some milk in a clay pot and said, "No one in my village fasts, here's some milk." And he said, "I will return later and collect my pot." But he didn't return. Madhavendra Puri drank the milk, but this beautiful young boy, he didn't return to pick up his pot. And eventually, during the course of the night, Madhavendra Puri took a little rest, and then he saw this beautiful young boy in his dream. And this beautiful young boy revealed to him that he was indeed Gopal, the deity of Gopal, who was hidden there in the forest. And then Madhavendra Puri went and excavated Gopal and installed him in the temple. So he was able to see that form of the Lord externally and internally within a dream. His meditation, his purity was complete. So, in that way, we can always, as Srila Prabhupada says, constantly, 24 hours a day, we can always meditate on the Supreme Lord, whether we are here in the temple, whether we are out doing our regular, work that we might need to do in order to survive. We can always be meditating on that form of the Lord, and with that understanding that it's non-different. Not that only when I'm in the temple I can be Krishna conscious, or only when I'm actually engaged in puja can I think about Krishna. No, we can think about Krishna 24/7, all the time, in these different ways, in different forms, within our heart, within our mind, can concentrate on the Supreme Lord, no matter what we're doing. And this is how we can be fully engaged in Krishna's service, with our mind fixed, our mind and our heart fixed. And another very nice point that is churned in this purport is the glories of the devotee. And this is something that can never be separated from the glories of the Lord. As we know, the Lord is never ever without his devotees. And it says right in the translation that his glories, the Lord's glories, enhance the glories of the devotees. So the devotee is always in connection with the Supreme Lord, and the glory of Krishna enhances the glory of the devotee. And we can see that Krishna loves his devotees to be glorified. Krishna puts his devotees in the position where they achieve more glorification than he does. And there are wonderful examples of that. So, what did I just say? So Krishna likes to see his devotees glorified, and Krishna puts his devotees in positions where they become glorified. Just as Arjuna, yes? Please don't bang, okay? You can sit here, but you need to be quiet. Just like Arjuna, Srila Prabhupada says here, Arjuna, Prahlad, Janak Maharaj, Bali Maharaj, all these wonderful devotees. And Krishna puts Arjuna in the position, he's fighting. He's ordering Krishna how to drive the chariot. No, please don't play with that. You need to either sit down here or sit down over there. Okay, what do you want to do? What are you going to do? No, you can't balance it on enough. You have to sit down nicely, okay? So, Krishna, he stands behind Arjuna. And he stands in front of Arjuna, but he's driving. And I've heard different devotees describe, the chariot driver was very much at the order of the person in the back of the chariot who's fighting. Krishna put himself in the position where he would drive, and yes, his glories enhance the glories of Arjuna, because it was still Krishna's strength, dexterity, his ability that enhanced Arjuna's ability as a warrior. And then we see Arjuna was able to perform so many amazing feats on the Battle of Kurukshetra because of his association with Krishna, and we glorify Arjuna because of his association with Krishna. Please don't, Sati. And yet when Krishna left the external vision of his pastimes, what happened to Arjuna's power? He lost it. He couldn't even protect Krishna's wives from some cowherds. He lost his power, and he realized then his power was only in a connection with Krishna. Yeah? When Krishna was absent, in a way, that his power was useless. He wasn't able to access that power at all. So the devotee's power... Okay, please go and sit down over there. Don't sit here and rip up the garland. You can't do that, Sati. Don't do it, love. The devotee's power is in connection with Krishna. The devotee's glories are in connection with Krishna. And Krishna loves to see his devotees glorified. So he puts his devotees in positions where they are glorified, even more than the Lord himself, and that makes Krishna very happy. Just as we know with that pastime of Ambarish Maharaj and Durvasa Muni, and the wonderful instructions that the Lord gives in that pastime about the position of his devotees, the glory of his devotees, and the power of his devotees, that Ambarish Maharaj, he was actually in charge there. Even when Durvasa Muni went to Lord Shiva, went to Lord Brahma, no, we can't help you, to try to escape from the heat of the chakra. They couldn't help him, you go to Lord Vishnu. Even when he went to Lord Vishnu, what did he say? I've got this down somewhere. What did he say? The Lord said to Durvasa Muni, I am completely under the control of my devotees. Indeed, I am not at all independent. Because my devotees are completely devoid of material desires, I sit only within the core of their hearts. What to speak of my devotee? Even those who are devotees of my devotee are very dear to me. So, and the Lord told Durvasa Muni, I can't help you. Sorry, it's not up to me. It's actually up to my devotee. And this is the position of the Lord's pure devotee, that Krishna loves to see his devotee in the position where he's glorified. He's greater than the devotee. That brings Krishna much pleasure. So the connection between the Lord and the devotee is so deep and so real that Krishna just loves to see his devotees being glorified. And we can glorify the devotees, even as Srila Prabhupada says here, some of the most wonderful devotees born in demonic families. We glorify Prahlad Maharaj, Bali Maharaj. Prahlad Maharaj's father was a demon, the biggest demon. Yet we glorify Prahlad Maharaj, because of his activities in connection with the Lord and his surrender and pure devotion to the Lord, were not at all influenced by his birth in a demonic family. And Srila Prabhupada says here, anyone who is eternally associated with the Lord is also glorified with the Lord. And that it is a bona fide process to chant the name of the devotee, yes? Which we practice also. We chant the holy name of the great devotee Srila Prabhupada, our spiritual masters. This is a very bona fide process because it is our devotion to the Lord's devotees that actually allow us to advance in Krishna consciousness. This is what pleases Krishna. If Krishna's devotees are so dear to him, then what makes us dear to Krishna is that we are devoted to his devotees. And this is the whole parampara process. This is the whole process of the guru-disciple relationship. That Krishna becomes pleased, Krishna gives his mercy to us based on our devotion to his devotees. That we don't jump over the devotees and simply try to have a one-on-one relationship with Krishna. We are the dasa anudas. There's a few levels of das there. We are the servant of the servant of the servant. This is our aspiration, actually. This is not even our position at the moment. This is our aspiration. That we want to be the servant of the servant of the servant of the servant. So any position in which we get the opportunity to serve the Lord's devotees, this we should see directly as Krishna's mercy. This is Krishna allowing us to come closer to him if we have a chance to associate with and serve his devotees. Without that, then advancement is very... Yeah, it's different. Without that, advancement will be very difficult. I was hearing a very wonderful class by Bhattaharidas Prabhu about the connection between japa and kirtan. And in there he gives a quote from Srila Prabhupada where Srila Prabhupada said, if one thinks that he can be Krishna conscious without the association of the devotees, he's living in an hallucination. It's actually a hallucination that we can be Krishna conscious without the association of devotees. And what is that association with devotees? It's not simply just living in the same area and saying Hari Bol when we walk past. It's actually taking opportunities to serve the devotees. Because by serving the devotees, then we can eventually attract Krishna's attention. And that's what we want. We want Krishna to glance upon us, yes? And he'll do that when his devotees recommend us to him. So by our endeavours to try to serve the devotees, then we have a chance to become Krishna conscious. So whenever we get opportunities to serve the Lord's devotees, then we should see that Krishna is pleased with us. Krishna is hearing us when we chant. He's hearing our plea. Yes, Krishna, please engage me in your service. Please engage me in the service of your devotees. Because that pleases Krishna more than anything. And we've got to move it back so that people can hear. And then, even though the devotee doesn't want to be glorified, the devotee becomes glorious and becomes glorified in connection with his activities with Krishna. Just as we glorify Srila Prabhupada. Don't pull it apart, love, don't do that. We glorify Srila Prabhupada, and that purifies our heart. By that glorification of the devotees, we become purified. We glorify him. Not that he was ever saying, glorify me, that's never the mood of the devotee. But because their activities are in connection with Krishna, then they are worthy of glorification. And that glorification of devotees purifies us, rids us of envy. These lower qualities, they can all be dealt with in association with devotees. In learning how to properly deal with the devotees, then these base qualities of envy, lust, greed, these things, they can all be dealt with in the association of devotees. That's why without the association of devotees, then we're in for a hard time. And that's why Srila Prabhupada created this community of devotees for us so that we actually have a chance to associate with one another and in that way come closer to Krishna. And in the association of devotees, we also have a real chance at this last point in the purport that the mind should be fixed. In the association of devotees, we have the opportunity for that to happen, that our mind can become fixed, because devotees are naturally, they're fixed on Krishna. Devotees are absorbed in Krishna's service. So then when we associate with them, naturally, we're hearing about Krishna, we're discussing Krishna. Our life becomes centered around Krishna in association with the devotees. So then we have this chance that our mind can be fixed on the Supreme Personality of Godhead in his many forms. Thank you for your tolerance. I think I'll stop there because my little girl's getting very energetic. Would anyone like to make any further comments? It's a wonderful verse and purport. Definitely can't do it justice, but if anyone would like to...
in regards to serving the devotees, I'm thinking if we assist them in kirtan also, and also distribution,
Yes.
by assisting in spreading the glories of the Lord, that's a nice way to assist the devotees.
Absolutely.
Can never be underestimated. Just assisting in the Sankirtan movement through kirtan or distribution is a huge way of assisting.
Yes, and that really helps build deep relationships with the devotees as well. When you assist and serve together, then the connections between devotees become very strong. It pleases Krishna and also helps us develop that relationship, deep relationship with the devotees. Yes.
And also, we're hearing about how we're meant to be meditating on the Lord within the mind, and some of us might find that a little bit difficult, but even just remembering that the super soul is residing within one's heart, so that when we're presented with a challenging situation, we've got to try and deal with it according to devotee behaviour and what have you like that. So that's also an opportunity for us to see it as a test. When we're put in a challenging situation, we have to remind ourselves the super soul is present and is in charge of all, everything is going on by Krishna's arrangement. How am I going to deal with this situation?
You mean a challenging situation with another devotee?
Yeah, with another devotee or even without a devotee. Still Krishna is present. We should be telling that Krishna is present everywhere. We shouldn't really be trying to distinguish this is a devotee, this isn't a devotee. When I was doing my business, I treated every one of my devotees. And I loved that. And it was very beneficial on my behalf because I got a lot of business from that. So treating everybody equally does go a long way. We should try not to discriminate too much, devotee, not devotee. All, Krishna's residing in everyone's heart.
Yes. Thank you. Granthara Srimad Bhagavatam ki jai. Srila Prabhupada ki jai.
Sati ki.